start the recording. Thank you, Cassandra. I would like to first take a roll, and please respond as I read your name. George Baumgarten. George Baumgarten.
Here.
Susan Bryant.
Here.
Eric Cruz. Haven't seen
Here.
Eric. Eric is here? Oh, yeah, Eric. Thank you. Tim Davis, I'm here. Lisa Hewitt.
Here.
Lori Gibbons is not here. Jeff Hartwell, not here. Sean Keneally. Mike Sardina.
Here.
Thank you. We have a quorum. Why don't I start with a different topic that we were going to first do, because the harbor master, Lauren Gibbons, said she was not able to make it. And I would just say that she has reported that everything that we've heard about prior on terms of the conveyor for Lawrence Wharf, Parker Avenue, boat ramp, and the Government Island are all on the same schedule. It sounds like we'll get the conveyor in the fall. Parker Avenue will start construction in November, and Government Island, the grant proposal has been submitted. So now that we've got that out of the way, if there are any questions on that. Okay, the next item on the agenda, and the main reason we're doing this, is a public meeting to discuss the proposed aquaculture bylaw. And hopefully all of you have gotten a copy of it. I don't know, I asked that it be posted. I'm not sure it got posted for the public to read, but it's a very simple bylaw, which essentially gives the select board of Cohasset the authority to create regulations for aquaculture in Cohasset waters. The regulations are still being reviewed, and they will be taken up at a later date. But the first item on the agenda was the first item that we have to take care of is a bylaw. And I'll just, a little bit of history. Cohasset waters have essentially been closed by the Department of Marine Fisheries for any shellfishing, recreational or commercial, for two reasons. One is we did not have an active shellfish constable, and two, we did not have a bylaw. So those were the two reasons that it was closed. We now have an active bylaw, or active shellfish constable, Josh Kimball, who we are very fortunate to have, who is an authority on aquaculture. Josh has helped put together the bylaw and the regulations that will be dealt with at another time. But by passing this on to the select board, for the select board to approve, and then it would go to town meeting for a vote in town meeting, special town meeting in the fall. Once we have that, then we can have the regulations go into effect, and we can have recreational shellfishing, and we can start taking a look at and considering what commercial aquaculture might mean to Cohasset. So with that, I'll open it up to first the committee. If you have any questions or comments about the bylaw, which hopefully you've all read, and anybody have any questions or comments about that?
Tim, this is George.
Yes.
Is this the one pager that you distributed earlier?
Yes.
Would it be helpful if I put it on, showed it on the screen, or shared it, or do you know?
You certainly could do that if anybody would like to see it.
I think that's a great idea, George. I mean, I have it right in front of me, and it was posted as Tim asked to be, but I think it's quite a different scheme than we had voted on or looked at before.
Can I have a question? So you just said that this short one is to be passed to the select board, and then it would go to the special town meeting in the fall, meaning this same short version. And then you said that the regulations automatically go into effect after that,
No,
even though the
they don't.
regulations are still being reviewed. Can you clarify exactly how that process goes?
Okay, what this does is give the select board the authority to create regulations. So nothing is automatic.
I thought actually it was automatic that the select board automatically has the authority to do shellfish regulations per that GL chapter 130.
Well, they
section
do.
54.
They automatically have the authority to do it, but they don't, nothing is ready to be implemented for the regulations at this point.
Right. So what's the order of things? The
order of things-
implementation of regulations is kind of what matters. So
order of
you
things
said that
is-
we're approving and then that the regulations are still being reviewed to be taken up at a later date is what you said, I think. And then,
Yes.
but I was confused about when you said that after the special town meeting, the regulations can go into effect. So which regulations are you referring to when you said that second sentence?
Okay, now you're beginning to confuse me, Susan. Let me go through it again. We can approve this draft bylaw to be passed on to the select board. The select board, if they choose to, can then pass it to town meeting. Town meeting, if the town meeting passes this and approves it, then the select board has the authority to implement regulations. Okay,
And what's the process for getting those regulations to the select board?
that I
That's the part
believe
that everybody really
that's-
knows. Is that
that's
everybody
up-
knows that that's what really matters? So can you clarify that protocol? Because
I
that's
believe
where
that-
all the meat is and everybody knows that.
I believe that's up to the select board. I don't think that necessarily has us. I would like to have the Harbor Committee review the regulations, but I think the select board has the authority to implement regulations once they have a bylaw. Now,
I know they have the authority to implement regulations because that's what the DMF says and the state law says. My question is, at what point do we all, at what point does this stuff actually get deliberated? That's a lot longer. This is many, many pages.
Yes, it is.
And this also is slightly different and also many pages.
As I said, Susan,
So can you clarify for me and for the general public and the listening democracy of the town, exactly what that process of deliberating the shellfish regulations that this is all about? When does that happen and how does that happen? Because I think there are people in town that want to know exactly how that process works.
as I say, Susan, that is up to the select board. We have the chair of the select board here, and maybe Jack, you can comment on how you would like to see that happen.
Yeah, thank you, Tim. I raised my hand when this. In a lot of things like this, you have to have an enabling thing at the town level, in which the town says, yes, we wish to enable that. And so that's what this bylaw does, is it enables the town to do these things, and it enables the town and the select board to promulgate those regulations. So after this gets passed, then the select board will decide how they wish to proceed. It is likely, but it will require a vote of discussion and vote of the select board. But it is likely that they will say, all right, we will then, maybe we give it to the Harbor Committee, maybe we set up an advisory committee to go through these regulations bit by bit and come up with regulations. And at that point, that's when we'd be getting public input, we'd be getting it from coastal research and all that. So it is the process of making laws. And it's just a step-by-step process. We go through the same process with other things. You have an enabling regulation, right, that enables something, and that's what we're looking at now, the agricultural bylaw. And then regulations are different. One of the reasons you want to do that is bylaws are hard to change, and regulations can adapt to the immediate circumstances. So if things change, we can change the regulations relatively easily, whereas a bylaw requires going through this whole process. Does that clarify things?
Thank you, Jack.
Yes, that's helpful. Thank you.
Okay.
So, and so why did all this stuff come to us? Was that just a overeager mistake, or
Susan,
is this still-
for
If I-
information purposes, the reason it was sent to you is for information purposes. I can tell you that initially, we considered doing it all at once, but it makes better sense to do it as Jack just outlined it. So that's why. So if you would prefer, just ignore everything except for what's on the screen right now.
Okay, but this is the stuff, these are the ones that are not on the town website. So if these are the ones that are, if this stuff is the goal, this should be on the town website, I feel, because
No.
this is where people, at whatever point it is, this was distributed to us on the Harbor Committee, but it didn't make it onto the town website under the agenda. So if this is what we're all thinking about, I feel that to be fully transparent, that should be on the town website.
Tim, may I speak to this? The process that we undertook at the governance subcommittee, working group, if you will, we were presented with the more extensive document. And we read it, we heard from the Josh, we talked about it, and we decided based on what we knew, we thought it was a good idea, and we passed it on to the full Harbor Committee. The full Harbor Committee then looked at it and said, okay, this makes sense. We asked questions. Josh answered some questions. We then sent it to town council. Town council, in their infinite wisdom and their expertise of dealing with issues like this on a regular basis with all sorts of different municipalities, I believe, and I didn't speak to them directly, but I presume looking at this document said, well, perhaps you want to just have, as Jack Creighton just said, an enabling statute to start with. And so honestly, this enabling statute will allow for all sorts of future and voluminous input once the selectmen decide what process they want to undertake to create the many provisions or pieces of this that they want to have impact aquaculture. So we're almost in a better place than we were several weeks ago when we were looking at a very in-depth document that we had not had a lot of input on, but based on the information that was given to us, we were in favor of to pass on to the selectmen. So this is, I think this is great. I think it makes a lot of sense. And where the elected officials of this, we're an advisory committee. So it's best that the selectmen decide what protocol they want to go through and have a full-fledged hearing, or just take deliberation and decide themselves.
Okay, so can I add that for the public record, I would like that as a member of the Harbor Committee, I would advocate that once we get to that point, I would wish that the select board would include fishermen and people that are involved in the fishing economy. Everything from the people who deliver bait to the people who deliver diesel to service the fishing boats, and not just the people who are technically residents of Cohasset, but people who are culturally residents of Cohasset because they fished in Cohasset Harbor on a Cohasset lobster boat for generations. So when it comes to the select board, I, as a member of the Harbor Committee, would like that to be part of the process.
Yeah, Susan, I think you can rest assured that one of the reasons of doing it this way is so those particular items can be added, negotiated, changed, because this gives the regulations a lot more flexibility. And you will see that the public will be kept up to date. But the reason the regulations aren't on there is they're just proposed. They're just a really kind of a sample regulations. They are not before the Harbor Committee right now. They're not before the select board. So we need to walk before we can run. We need to get the enabling, and then we get down to some hard work. And I can assure you that you will hear, and the rest of the town will hear plenty about shellfish regulations.
Thank you, Jack. Yeah, Franny. Franny, I think you're muted.
How's that?
Yeah, that's better.
You hear my dulcet tones? No, there we go. All right, couple of comments and a couple of observations. I saw that first submission that you folks came out with, and it looked like it was a shellfish regulations to some town in the Cape, which obviously doesn't apply to here. But we have the two types of shellfish that we have that are available for harvesting by either commercial entities or the residents, mussels and soft shell clams, which includes razor clams. And there are two places where they can be done in Cohasset. One is what we call long, so whale meadow on the north side of the channel, going out of the harbor. And the other place is Little Harbor. The mussels are long gone from Little Harbor, thanks to the depredations of the green crab. And I wouldn't not be at all surprised if the clams are gone from Little Harbor as well, from the depredations of the green crab. My question is, has anybody, are we putting the cart before the horse? Are we making regulations for something that we can't regulate? Has anybody done anything in Little Harbor or along out at Whale Meadow to see, are there any shellfish still available for harvesting? And we don't know that question.
Yes, we
The
do.
only other shellfish that could be potentially harvested by Cohasset residents would be in Situate on the south side of the channel. So now in terms of aquaculture, that's another whole horse of a different color, and I understand that. But shellfishing, we don't have oysters up here. We don't have bullhogs up here. We have a few here and there. But basically, the two main shellfish is available, mussels and soft
Franny,
shell clams.
Franny, if I could just respond. Somebody's got two devices on that are providing feedback. If you could mute your, Franny, would you mute one of your devices? And I will respond. There are two reasons why, at least in my mind, why we were addressing a shellfish bylaw and regulation. One is for recreational shellfishing, and I would disagree with you about the mussels in Little Harbor. There is a very healthy mussel bed just inside Cunningham's Bridge in Little Harbor. And I haven't gone to other places. I know there are shellfish elsewhere. It probably comes and goes, and I think there are issues there. The second, and perhaps the more important reason for doing this in my mind, is that we are creating an opportunity for a commercial aquaculture industry of the future. If the lobsters in their wisdom decide to migrate north the way they have from Long Island Sound, I think we as a community would be well suited to have another commercial fishing industry. And to do that, we need to have bylaws and regulations. We are, as you know, we've got infrastructure going on Government Island that will allow us to deal with different types of fishing boats. We've got a lift and conveyor systems that are planned for there. So this is really for the future. It's not just for today. So I would say that this is really for both recreation, for people that would like to do recreational shellfishing, and for the future for commercial aquaculture, whether it's shellfish or whether it's kelp, whatever in the future as it may be. Mike, I saw you had your hand up. Would you like to comment?
Very much in favor of the, let me just quickly rebuttal here. I took a walk on the mussel beds there in Little Harbor last year, and there was no mussel to be seen, gravel and rock out there. Now, there's miraculous if they've recovered since last year, then I beg your pardon, but I couldn't find, I went to look specific.
I'm happy to take a trip out there with you. Please mute one of your devices, though. You seem to be the one causing the feedback. Thank you. Yes, Mike.
Yeah, I was going to say I'm fishing Little Harbor all the time. There's substantial mussel beds that are just inside the bridge all the way past Mink Island. There's oysters in there, razor clams in there. There's all kinds of shellfish in there now, in various locations and under various conditions.
Thanks, Mike. Okay, other comments or thoughts about the bylaw? I'd like to dispense with the bylaw if we can, and then I have a few comments about the regulations to come, but I'd like first to deal with the bylaw. Does anybody in the public have any comment about the bylaw? This is a public forum, open to the public. Hearing none, if I could then do a roll call to see if the Harbor Committee would approve sending this on to the Select Board. I'll call your name, and if you could say yay or nay, I'd appreciate it. George Baumgarten,
Yay.
Susan Bryant. Susan Bryant. Susan Bryant. Eric Cruz.
Yay.
Timothy Davis, yay. Lisa Hewitt.
Yay.
Mike Sardina.
Yay.
Susan Bryant. Okay, well, I suggest that we send it along with 5 votes to the Select Board for them to deliberate and decide where to go from there.
Can I ask one question? One more question. I'm sorry, I had to step away for a second, but what is the impact on landing fisheries products in Cohasset Harbor by this endeavor?
If you mean by this endeavor, the bylaw that we are just voting on, Susan, there's no impact on it, other than it gives the Select Board of Cohasset the authority to create regulations.
Or the spirit of the law. I mean, I feel like I'm not a lawyer, but the spirit of the law really does matter to me. And as long as that's transparent, we're cool.
I have no idea what that means, Susan. I don't know what that means. What you see in front of you is what we're asking the Select Board to take up. It says nothing about, well, again, I'm not quite sure what your concern is or what your point is, but if you want to restate it, so maybe somebody else can interpret it for me, I'm happy to respond.
I'm just not sure why it's suddenly such a priority, and I'm wondering if it's not something more complicated than it's being presented as.
Okay, Susan, I might address that if the chair would agree.
Yes, please, Jack.
Okay. Susan, this is enabling. I'm trying to take legal stuff and bring it to common sense. This is an enabling piece of legislation. This enables the Select Board to do that. And then the stuff that you're looking for, this enables the Select Board to put together regulations that allow this. And for your concern, which is well taken about what's the spirit of this, the spirit of this is to encourage, the use of our maritime resources, to allow for aquaculture, to allow for shellfishing, and to have it done in a properly environmentally regulated manner. So this enables all the stuff that I think you're looking to see happen.
And then I know I've taken up a lot of time, so I don't like to do that without offering some assistance as well. So if we are curious about the populations of mussels or shellfish, I don't have an additional lot of time to add a new project this summer, but we do have an engineering program here, and we have an oceanography program. And we have some students who are looking for independent projects. So tell me what you're all curious about, and possibly we could get a project going here to provide accurate information for all the interested parties.
I am sure, Susan, that when it comes time to do that, that you will be besieged by requests for assistance. I think we're all aware of important things that's going on in coastal research. But this, for the here and now, enables the process to start.
Thank you, Jack. Susan, are you in favor of taking this bylaw and sending it to the select board?
I can
Yes.
be in favor of sending this along to the select board as long as the fishing community is always advised of what's going on with it. I think it really matters to them. And I want to make sure that the word gets out to people who fish and are dealing with it for their economic livelihood.
Yes, and they, as many as I can contact have been contacted. Adam Donovan has been with us this evening. The harbor master certainly has been aware of this. And anybody that has of interest, I know Mike Lane is aware of it. So it is in the interest of continuing a commercial fishing fleet in Cohasset. That is one of the reasons we're doing this. So they are clearly involved in it. Okay, I will put you down as a yay. With that, we now have a majority to pass this on to the select board. Thank you all. Let me just address the regulations that are coming. You have seen some initial drafts of the regulation. Josh Kimball has worked on those. We've had input from the harbor master. We've had input from others of you. Those have all been considered, and it is still very much a draft. What I would like to do is have a public meeting sometime this summer, whereby we can invite the public to review a draft of those regulations. All it is a draft for discussion, get input from everyone. I will certainly make sure that the commercial fishermen are aware of it. To those whose contact information I have, I can send directly to them. And certainly we can address any issues they may have. So that's kind of where I'd like to go with this. I'm certainly open to other suggestions if other people have any other comments. I see Adam, I appreciate you being here, and certainly if you can pass on to your colleagues in the fishing fleet. I see you have one of them by your side there who is who's ready to start. A couple of them there who are
yeah, I'm shorthanded tonight, Tim.
Well, that's great. If you could pass on to your colleagues that this is what we're doing, and it is we definitely want their input as we go forward.
Tim, if I may, I have a
Sure.
quick question.
Yeah.
Are you still the chairman of the Friends of Bassins Beach, or whatever
I
group
am.
that is?
I am.
A group that's actively trying to stop shellfishing?
Well, that what we're trying to do is preserve Cohasset Harbor, preserve and conserve Cohasset Harbor for two reasons. One is for its historical use for recreation, recreational fishing, recreational boating, and also to conserve and increase the eelgrass meadows, which are a barrier for Bassins Beach, which is a barrier island or a barrier beach protecting Cohasset. So that's why Friends of Bassins Beach feels that that's an inappropriate place to put a commercial aquaculture farm.
But you can understand the conflict that you face.
I'm
I
not
mean,
sure there's
we've enjoyed your support. I think a large part of this meeting that was conveyed. But you know, the reality is standing in the middle of the road is a dangerous place.
Yeah, I realize that, but I see there's no conflict.
What about the lawsuit against the Situate Select Board?
There is no lawsuit against the Situate Select Board.
The record?
Yes, Susan, there is no lawsuit at the moment against the Situate Select Board.
Time will tell.
Okay. Maybe you know something I don't know. Any other comments or thoughts?
Tim, I'd like to talk about the process I'm going for a sort of hearing. I think it'd be great if we could talk to the fishermen and others, and, you know, I'd love to know what Mr. Donovan thinks about a timing. I mean, what is good, you know, is, I think oftentimes it's hard to have a meeting that people, you know, don't find out about till a couple of days before, or don't know what the draft is, or et cetera, et cetera. So I think, you know, notice is the basis of, you know, input. And so if you know, if we could get a sense from people, like when would be a good time to have a meeting. I know it's really tough to schedule a Cohasset meeting because of the limited Zoom licenses. But I think it would be great if we have it, you know, at least a couple of weeks out, so we have a proper notice to everybody, and also find out a good time slot for people. Because I know, you know, with everybody has kids and work and everything else. So that would be, I think, a great thing to do, and also solicit input from the makeup of the committee, who will be the panel at this hearing, to when that would be a good time to have the meeting.
Thank you, Lisa. Any other comments, input from the community, from the committee?
Once again, I'll offer a solution. I feel like aquaculture is
Susan, you just
for many years. If it makes sense to have a panel on fishing, at which some of these things could be debated, I think CSCR might be interested in hosting that. I know that Fran and I and Aaron Hassan were talking about having a lobstering panel anyway, just because we felt like students and the general populace should know more about both the ecological and the economic aspects of it around here. So that's something that's in our wheelhouse, and it's a little bit like the state of the harbor. And you know, as you know, Jack Buckley is a retired social studies teacher, so civics is of interest to him and to us as an organization. So let us know if we can be of assistance in gathering a wide and diverse audience and having a really interesting panel that digs in rich and deep with clam forks.
Thank you.
Yeah.
David. Oh, George, I'm sorry. George, go ahead.
No, David got his hand up first. Go with David.
Okay, David.
I just had a quick comment regarding the shellfish bylaws and everything else that's been talked about here tonight. In another area of town, if you go down to West Corner, 3 towns converge. You have Hingham, Hull, and Cohasset. And many years ago, when we had to redo the tide gate, and when there was other things that were going on there regarding the bridge, which all of that affect environmentally the 3 different towns involved, the 3 towns got together and worked together regarding what would end up going there with all the research and the like. When the shell fishing in Situate came up regarding what they were going to do out there, I don't believe that process happened regarding that. While there were certainly Cohasset residents who went into the permitting and let their case be known, I don't think that the olive branch was extended by Situate to Cohasset regarding what they were going to do there and how it was going to affect the town of Cohasset. So I just give that as a juxtaposition of the 2 different things that have gone on in different corners of the town between how the different towns related to each other. So I just bring that to everyone's edification when you're talking about the shellfish in Situate versus what happened on the other side of town.
Thank you, David. George.
Yeah, I have a question maybe for Jack or probably for Jack regarding next steps on the 1-page bylaw that we just as a committee passed. Could you maybe just clarify what happens between when the select board gets it and how it gets onto the warrant for town meeting, and what the approximate schedule for that process will be? That's to you, Jack.
We'll put that on the agenda for the select board to recommend it. I can't predict what we in our august wisdom will do, but I'm pretty sure it's gonna zip right through. And then it's scheduling town meeting, getting it on the warrant. I think one of the beauties of doing it this way is we have a very simple and basic thing that gets enacted quickly, which is our goal. and the regulations, to Susan's concerns, are likely to take more time. And that's why I think it's important that whatever group is going to host those meetings and work on that, be prepared to start working, fairly quickly. I am quite sure. Well, now, I would personally like to see the select board get that empowered. And I think the broad-based meetings are always better. It'll take a little bit of time to get up and going. I know the select board, we have a number of initiatives that we're racing to get approved because they have to be submitted to the legislature. And these are different issues, but we're a little bit backed up for the next week. We're meeting on a weekly basis, plus these additional meetings that we're attending, like this one. But George, I expect us to move very quickly. And for people who are on the Harbor Committee, start thinking about people who would be appropriate to be on this steering committee or advisory committee to do this, whether it's under the auspices of the Harbor Committee or a direct appointed advisory from the select board is yet to be determined. But for all the people who are here, and thank you all for being here, for taking some time to really sit down and address some hard issues. Now we have a really hard one, which is figuring these regulations. So you can think about ways that you can help. Please let us know. We need to, get this moving. We'll do our part on the select board to enable it. And then the regulations are going to be lots of fun.
Tim, one follow-up question on dates. What is the approximate time frame that the warrant is set, and what is the target time frame for the fall town meeting?
I think the warrant has started to get set in August. Am I right, Jack?
Yes,
And the town meeting probably will be what, November?
yes. And
Okay.
I don't know the exact date. I have the calendar someplace buried in my, I think I have 6 panes of my of my computer open right now. But anyway, this enabling thing will definitely be on there. That will be done as quickly as possible, but that does not preclude people getting involved and thinking about it and working on the regulations. Regulations can be lengthy, and they can be tedious because there's a lot of details in there. So again, be prepared. Raise your hand. This is an important part, and I see Susan smiling on there. So we'll get all the people over at Coastal Research and give them plenty of documents to read in detail.
So at what point are we deliberating? Because I know that we've been scolded in the past for deliberating in an inappropriate way. So what point, can you refresh us on that?
Well, first of all, on one technicality, by the way, people should be aware that there's evidently been a ruling come down on high that if you are not actually being seen on the in a meeting, it doesn't count. So you kind of have to be live on the video part, not just the verbal. You have to be live on that. And I'm not sure where that's coming from, but I suspect we're going to hear it. 2 people, if you are at a posted meeting, you're fine. That's why we like to post things. And you can post a lot of times. So I think that's, you want to be mindful of the time constraints. You can have, like, you would send something to Tim. Tim would send information for you to study. You can read that. What you can't do is 3 people can't discuss that. And 2 people can't discuss it and then say, let's call the 3rd person. That's chain deliberation. So we want to be careful about that. So just be aware of that. But you can talk in your organization. You can go back to Coastal Research. You can talk to people, right? What you cannot do is deliberate as part of an official governing body, and 3 people is deliberation, 2 people is conversation. Just don't try to be cute.
There's a very effective piece on the Attorney General's website that is the Office for Open Meeting Law. And it has a very in-depth with examples of things that you can and cannot do under the open meeting law. I commend everybody's attention if they haven't already read it.
Can you send us that link? And
Sure.
we need it to be legally interpreted. Is it for lay people or is it for
It's
lawyers?
for people because it's for volunteers who work in the public space and to help them stay out of the weeds. It's really well done. I'll send it to you, Susan.
Okay, the reason I ask is not to be cute. The reason I ask is to be efficient and effective. And, anything that's this long is, it's not something we can nail in 1 hour meeting. And, nobody wants to be in a meeting for more than that. So trying to figure out the good way to move forward and yet be inclusive and have a representative democracy and have it really looked at carefully because it needs it.
Okay. Any other comments from the public or from the committee? With that, then I'd like to thank you all very much for your time. Appreciate it. And with that, we will adjourn and you will hear about upcoming meetings in the near future. Thank you.
Tim, you'll just have to motion to adjourn.
I propose a motion to adjourn. Does he have to
Or
propose?
someone has to propose
All
it.
in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. See you later.
Ciao.
Night all.
Bye, everybody.
Hi, everyone. Very impressed.